Hello, everyone. This is Reason for Today. I'm your host, Joel Bohannon. Tonight, I'd like to take a moment and talk just briefly here about trauma, specifically childhood trauma. I am not a licensed professional. Over the last 12 years. I have been a pastor. I've pastored multiple congregations, and I have gotten an opportunity to experience firsthand how people deal with traumatic experiences. People responded differently. We really don't know how we will respond when we're facing the unknown, or when we're facing something that we have never experienced before. We're talking about dealing with traumatic experiences. So what did I do? I did what any person living in 2024 would do. I Googled trauma. And the AI overview, it says trauma is an experience that causes intense psychological and physical stress and can have lasting negative effects on a person's well-being. This is right off of Google, okay? It can be caused by a single event or a series of events that are perceived as harmful or threatening. Trauma can affect people in many ways, including mental health, physical health, brain development. Trauma can cause long-term mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. It can also impact a person's ability to regulate emotions and navigate relationships. Do you hear this? Trauma can cause physical symptoms such as headaches, aches and pains, shaking, tiredness, and sweating. It can also lead to sleep disturbances, gastrointestinal disorders, and other health problems. Trauma can negatively impact the brain, especially in children who are still developing in the first 1,000 days of life. That's between 0 and 3. This can lead to long-term difficulties for adults who experience trauma as a child. It even gives some common causes of trauma, including natural disasters such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods, acts of violence such as assault, abuse, terror attacks, and mass shootings, car crashes, or other accidents. And the truth of the matter is, trauma is not necessarily what happened. Trauma is the effect of what happened and how you respond. Some of us have what I would like to call traumatic responses. In other words, we have these things that we do that help us to cope with what we have been through. Now, I want to just speak briefly about childhood trauma. I was in a class, and when I was in the seminary, it was called Marriage, Family, and Interpersonal Relationships. It was about all the ranges of the family dynamic. I remember talking to my professor, who was a licensed psychologist, about some of the details of my childhood. And he said, well, Joel, what appears to be normal for you could be perceived as abuse to someone else. And I had to really think about it, and I really had to ponder, could it be that some of the things that I went through as a child could have caused me to have trauma? And, you just don't really know, because as a child, you don't necessarily know that what's happening to you is abnormal, okay? And so you have to be mindful of the fact that there may have been things that happened in your youth that you had no control over. You may have been exposed to things that you should not have been exposed to. Your parents, your aunts, your uncles, you could have experienced things that have scarred you throughout your life. And the craziest thing is, you may not even know that it was something that happened in your childhood that is now causing you to behave the way that you do. It's amazing how fragile the mind is of a little child who only wants love and affection, only wants to be received and not rejected, a little child that wants to experience the joy that comes just from being around people who care. But oftentimes we find that in this society, in this world, there are things that happen in our lives, and we have to learn how to cope with it, or cope with the challenge, or cope with the situation. And the question that I ask is, how are you handling what you've been through? Have you truly reflected on what it is that you went through as a young kid, or maybe even as a teenager, or maybe even as a young adult? Because the truth of the matter is, trauma doesn't care how old you are. Trauma doesn't care how young you are. It's not about how others perceive what you went through. It's about how you perceive what you went through. What impacts you on a traumatic level may not impact someone else in the same way. And so it is imperative that we take into consideration the things that we've actually gone through. And so when I look back over my life and I look at my family dynamic, and I think about the things that I've gone through, the places that I've been, I've come to the realization that I have to be very intentional on the things that I do now, simply because there are gaps in my youth where I didn't receive the things that I should have received, or I received too much of things that I should have received. And so now I have to find, as an adult, this equilibrium of taking responsibility to learn the things that I should have learned, to heal from the things that I did go through, to get the help that I need to begin the process of healing. And as a pastor, over these last 12 years, I can be honest with you, I understand that as a human being, you're going to have traumatic experiences. You're going to go through some things, and how you come out of those things, the truth of the matter, it can change you. It can change you for the good, and it can sometimes change you for the worse. And so you have to be very intentional with what you do. And I used to preach this, when you were a kid, you really didn't have much control. I do apologize to those of you who may tune in and say, I actually had to raise myself. I didn't necessarily have anyone there guiding me. And I want to let you know that you've done a good job so far. And there's more work that needs to be done. But when you were young, you didn't really have the authority to tell yourself what you would eat, what you would drink, what you would put on, where you would go, how long you would stay, what time you would go to bed, what time you would get up, where you would go to school, who would be your teachers, stuff like that. You really didn't have control over that. And depending upon who raised you and the way that they raised you, you may find that some of the things that you experienced as a child just didn't help you, and it actually hurt you. And my understanding is that as a child, you didn't have any control. That's the first 12 years of your life, first 18 years of your life. And then from 18 to 75, by the grace of God, you should have authority in your life to make decisions to better your life, to make your life healthier, to make your life whole. And you may have to go and find some healing. So my philosophy is, don't let the seasons in your life where you had no control dictate the time in your life where you have all control. You see, eventually we've got to get to the place where we take responsibility for ourselves. Now, I understand that this can sometimes be hard because some of us are looking for somebody to blame. Some of us are looking for somebody to point the finger at. There are a lot of individuals who are pointing the finger at grave sites where people are dead and gone. They're dead and gone. They never apologized. They never said, I'm sorry. They never came back and gave you the hug that you wanted. They never gave you the kiss on the cheek. They never gave you the high five. They never came to the game, and they're laying there dead in the grave, and you're still carrying around the baggage that they dropped off at your doorstep when you were young. And oftentimes you'll find that you are afraid to even look in those bags to see what you're carrying. And it's scary. I do understand that. But what I've discovered is, as I journeyed with God across these last 41 years, what I discovered is that God has the ability, through the power of the Holy Ghost, through his own divine hand, to take what was ever in your bag, whatever you felt that you were carrying it around, and he's able to exchange sorrow for gladness, weeping for laughter. He's able to trade tears for smiles. He's able to give joy where there was sorrow and hope where you had hopelessness. He's able to change what's inside of your bag, but he needs you to open up the bag so that you can inspect the content. And I'm here today to tell you that oftentimes you may find that when you look in that bag that you've been carrying around, that you have healed. You are no longer broken. You have been made whole. And it's scary, I know, but I want you to look at yourself when you were 8. Look at yourself when you were 9, and look at yourself when you were 10. And I want you to talk to your childhood and say, although when I was young, I had no control, but now that I'm older, I'm going to take care of me. And I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to take care of mine. I'm going to take care of myself. If I need help, I'm going to go find it. If I need a direction, I'm going to go and find it. If I need support, I'm going to go and find it. And I'm not going to just let this childhood of mine limit me from the future that I can have as an adult. And so I don't know where you're starting. I don't know what you've been through. I know that people react differently to different situations. But I'm here today to tell you that where you are is not a reflection of who you are, and is definitely not accurate when it in regards to what you can be. And so if you're looking in your history, understand that there's absolutely nothing you can do to change what happened to you. But if you look at your future, that's where the change must take place. You've got to begin to look into the future and see where you could be, see where you can be, and begin to work towards that expected destination. And as you begin to put forth effort, as you begin to make choices, as you begin to direct yourself in the way that you should go, you may find that what happened to you as a child will never happen to you again as an adult. And you can move beyond the trauma and the coping. And you can find joy again, hope again, love again, peace again. And if you've never had it before, you can find it for the first time. You can find it for the first time if you've never had it before. As long as there's breath in your body, there's hope for you. Don't let what happened to you yesterday keep you from enjoying what is going to happen for you tomorrow. You have to now begin to live again. And I'm just going to apologize for everyone out there on the line who was hurt by somebody. I'm sorry that that happened to you. I'm sorry that you went through that. But I'm here today to tell you that if you would trust in God, He can lead you beyond everything that you've been through. And He can transform your entire life one day at a time. I'm told the individuals in my life that caused me hurt and pain, I've forgiven them and I've moved beyond. But sometimes that pain comes back, and I have to say to myself, listen, I'm going to take care of you, and you'll never have to face that again. You are going to be okay. And if you find yourself in a situation that is not conducive to your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, I would ask you to go and tell somebody who can help you, and get help. Get help. Make a phone call. I'm not one of these preachers that just believes in praying about everything. I'm a preacher that believes in action. I'm a preacher that believes in getting things done. Call the police. Tell your teacher. Tell an adult that you're not okay. And this is not okay. And they will help you. And if they don't, call somebody else. God bless you.